Somebody order up a rescue?
Mr. Snart, your timing is impeccable.
Rogues. Cute.
CBS's show DC's Legends of Tomorrow has come quite a long way since it first premiered way back in 2016. When it first got aired, it was basically destined for failure, but since then the show has become more popular and grown a much bigger audience. The success of the show wouldn't be as possible without its amazing cast, which ultimately is what makes it as intriguing as it is. But what rules does this cast have to follow that makes the show run so smoothly? Well, in today's video, we're going to be going over some of the strict rules that the Legends of Tomorrow cast has to follow. But before we get into the video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as well as hit the post notification bell so you never miss another update from us. No negativity. While this might seem like a basic rule, it's an essential one in keeping a good working environment. Having a positive surrounding has a great effect on the production of the show, as well as on the performance of the actors. If any negativity is brought on set, that could throw off the whole vibe of the day, and it can end up distracting the actors when they're filming, or can just overall ruin everyone else's mood. Now, although this doesn't seem to be the problem for the cast of The Legends of Tomorrow, they're still expected to show up with a smile on their face. There is, of course, some leeway for this rule. The crew and cast have the right to be upset if something's bothering them, or they just have an issue with something that's going on set. As a matter of fact, they've been encouraged to speak up on any issues that they've got. These issues will then go on to be resolved in a controlled environment without ruining the entire production of the show. Both personal and professional life needs to be kept separate. While we love to watch these actors on screen as some of our favorite characters, the cast are human beings and do have their own lives to deal with, just like us. And this means that the sad or challenging events that we face, they have to face as well. These include death, divorce, medical conditions, and much more. These horrible conditions can sometimes even drive some stars to disappear from our screens. However, while occasional breaks for personal reasons are allowed, the cast of Legends of Tomorrow is expected to keep their personal issues to themselves and not bring it on the set of the show. This kind of ties into the previous rule, but if a person has something going on in his or her personal life, there's no need to let it affect the acting performance on set. A personal life is meant to be kept private and personal for a reason, and should also not affect the important aspects of the production of the show, like shooting schedules and deadlines. Everybody has to get along with each other. Whether it be on the set of the show or even during public interviews, they are expected to be kind to one another. Now, this rule also goes back to the first one, that the cast should not bring any negativity. Getting along with one another on set also means to not be rude or even negative towards anybody else. For example, if one of the actors says something rude to one of the co-stars, it could affect how they might act together on camera, and not to mention it would be a little awkward if Maisie Richardson's seller got into a disagreement with Nick Zano. Of course, even if this were to happen, the two actors are expected to stay professional, but by following the third rule, the potential problem would never happen. But of course, we shouldn't really expect this from any of the cast members, as they all seem to get along pretty well. The rule of getting along with one another is also expected of the cast even off the set, meaning that during interviews and such, they should get along, or at least make it seem like they've been best friends, even if they aren't. The showrunners and producers don't need something to come up in the media about their actors not getting along or about some drama that seems to be going on within the cast. First of all, it wouldn't be the best look for the show, and the cast definitely wouldn't be praised about it by production. Relationships with the co-stars should not affect their work. However, if a relationship were to happen between the cast members, it shouldn't be the first time we've seen it. Off-screen romance between co-stars is a very common occurrence in the industry, and due to the long shooting hours away from the real world, many co-stars develop somewhat of a haven around the set, and friendships usually develop. Some of these friendships eventually grow into romances, and we've seen plenty of feelings spark between actors. Some include Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, Johnny Gallic and Kaylee Cuoco, and Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck. These are just some examples of on-screen romances that spilled off camera, with some of them developing serious relationships that led to marriage. However, along with these fairy tale romances, we've also seen some relationships between co-stars not have as happy of an ending. Some relationships have ended in breakups while the stars were still filming together. Sadly, this was the case with some popular co-stars like Blake Lively and Penn Badgley, and Ian Somerhalder and Nina Dobrev. Regardless of the emotional turmoil that may come from a breakup, the cast is still expected to maintain a professional working relationship, and their performance while on set should in no way be reflective of any affairs that are taking place off screen. While we haven't seen any affairs between the cast of Legends of Tomorrow, the cast is still reminded of this rule. If there ever was a relationship between the cast members and they let it affect their performance on screen, they run the chance of possibly being written off the show completely. Always be ready to say goodbye. With such an action-packed series, the possibilities for the futures of these characters are endless. One second they may be alive, and the next, they're gone. With this in mind, the cast member should always be prepared to die, for it could happen at any moment in time. Along with this rule, the cast should always be able to respect the production's choice in order to kill off the character. In other words, they shouldn't get upset or riled up if their character ends up leaving the show or getting killed. It's just a part of life. And the cast is reminded that the show can run just as well with or without the character. The producers could just rewrite the storyline in a way where they don't need a character anymore. For example, the deaths of, spoiler alert, Felicity, Captain Cold, and Rip Hunter. While these deaths were tragic, the show has still gone on without them. And while the actors of the now dead characters will miss acting for their roles in the show, they were still happy to even be in it in the first place. And though these stars may have known about their deaths that were soon to come, that still didn't affect their performance prior to being killed off. Being written off doesn't always mean it's final. Now, this wouldn't usually be a rule for most television shows, but there is an exception for Legend of Tomorrow. For those of you that don't know much about the show, there's always characters that come back to life after being previously killed. For example, in the show, Carter was reincarnated in the future, where he then time traveled to 2016 to be with his eternal love, Kendra. Aw, how sweet. But something the cast and audience should always keep in mind is that Legends has a built-in means of resurrection. Charlie can use the Loom of Fate in order to bring back characters that are dead. Not only the cast members, but also the audience should keep in mind that being killed off isn't always final. Be careful what you say to the press. The show has been running for 7 years now, ever since the initial release, and since the series is based on the characters from the DC Comics, fans have somewhat of an idea of what to expect from future episodes of the season. But that still doesn't mean that the cast can release any spoilers to the media. They're still expected to not release any key points in the storyline whenever speaking to the press. And as a matter of fact, the actors, especially the ones with a lot of past acting experience, are sort of trained on how to answer any questions that try to get juicy details about any upcoming events in the show. And while there haven't been many leaks from the cast members of Legends of Tomorrow, it can be assumed that the production team wouldn't be very happy if one of the stars happened to slip a word about any upcoming events to happen in the series. With that being said, that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and if you did enjoy it, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, as well as hit that post notification bell so you'd never miss another update from us. Until next time, guys, we'll see you later.